Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to another segment of Long Island Talks, sponsored by A1 Roofing, the best in commercial or residential roofing. Now let's get to our first guest. It is cold and chilly, but not in here.
No, it's not.
It's so good to have a warm person like you here, Michael Opisso. Welcome back. Welcome to the space. You had indicated it's been 5 years since we last talked.
Time flies. Time flies. It's good to be back. It's good to be back. I also have another term for winter, and that's called the transparent season, because all the leaves are gone and the vegetation, the foliage is gone. So you can see the structure of things in the winter. It's also sort of a prelude that we can, since it's transparent season, it's a great time to look within and look through and look within in ourselves.
I think having the seasons, period, is a great thing. I never understood, and I have some friends, and my mom lives in Florida, but I never understood how people could do the one season. I, as a person, feel I cannot.
Well, as you know now, I tried. I do have a place in Florida now, and I was going to try to do it. But to your point, I'm a product of this area over 60 years, and not to mention the Northeast. And the seasons are wonderful. There's something unique and special about
Very much
each
so.
season, especially as a landscape architect and a designer. It's an extra enriching experience, to work with the seasons, plant things that can showcase the different seasons. Even in the wintertime, plants that have great berry color. And on a day like today with snow on the ground, really showcase that by contrast.
Each project can be, a sort of a reflection of the season. Why don't we start there, actually? I know our subject matter is going to get deep into what you do, your passion, as we talked about.
Yes.
As a professional, how long have you been doing the landscape architecture?
It's 40 years now.
Great.
It's hard to believe.
Fantastic.
But really loving it.
Yeah.
Loving it. And it was and as you say, we'll talk more about how the spiritual comes into that, but it's a natural connection, the two, and I can explain that.
Well, I was going to just say simply, and I'm not claiming to know the answer, but just working with dirt and spiritual to me, are conducive to being compatible.
Yeah, well, just getting down to earth.
There you go.
Literally. There's a lot there's a lot to be said for that, especially during such a time of technology and everything is, our devices.
Right.
But that's not where we come from, and that's not our history, and it's not really who we are. And to your point, Kevin, getting some dirt in our fingernails, grounding ourselves again is a wonderful thing to do as often as we can.
Yeah, there's some people I'm just thinking of lately, and I'll mention her, Pamela Anderson. Arguably, in the spotlight more than most people we know, living this crazy life.
Right.
And then she's getting I don't know if you follow her. She's getting a lot of satisfaction late in life, gardening and just being alone in Canada. Not a lot of people come out of it. That were, they don't come out of it after being that high.
Yes.
It actually doesn't usually end well, but she seems to be getting better.
Well, that's a great example. It's kind of like from one extreme, to kind of showing the benefits of getting grounded again, into the simple things in life. And gardening is a fantastic way to do that. But even just simply, walk in nature. Hearing the leaves crumble under your feet or branches, or of course down by walking by the ocean or water. I mean, that's in us. These elements of nature haven't changed. Society changes, politics changes, technology changes, but our roots don't change. And so that's why it's like going home when we return to nature in different forms.
So this awareness that you just explained, that most people really don't take the time to be aware of. When did you recognize that you were aware of it?
I love how you just phrased that. Becoming aware or taking time to be aware. That's how busy we are in these times. The real answer, I think it goes back,
Teens, maybe
decades
before.
and decades
Okay.
and decades. And there's this sense that there's something bigger. There's something else that's present And when you have that sense, which most people have the sense, but then society just drowns it out because we're doing everything that everyone else is doing, activities and distractions, and we just don't take the time, as you said, to become aware. And awareness is consciousness. Consciousness is presence. When we're thinking, we're not truly conscious because our mind is somewhere else in many cases. And so consciousness, presence, awareness, it's what there is when everything else melts away. Mm-hmm. And so early on, I started to have a sense for this. And then part of my professional career as a landscape architect, I was fortunate enough to spend extensive time studying in China and Japan. In Japan, I was actually studying in Buddhist temples. I wasn't studying Buddhism at the time, but I was studying
the physical
garden
location.
Design and spending lots of hours in temples. And I think that inner seed ripened at that time. And then over the years, I tried to ignore it, and just kind of live the normal sort of American mainstream mm-hmm. life. And there's so much to that, and it's wonderful. But, that whisper kept getting louder and bringing my attention to that there was something more. And then, about 20 years ago, I was introduced to, formal meditation, Buddhist teaching, spirituality, and then everything really started to open up, and that understanding really began to deepen.
So you started to understand, and then at some point you said to yourself, I understand this so well, or maybe that's not true, that you started to teach, right? You did a flip at one point.
Well, the understanding so well, not the case. It's more like beginning to understand what you don't really know.
Okay.
But you're right. Because I was, I guess, primed to be ready to receive teachings in spirituality and meditation, it really took to me, and I took to it to the point where, yes, I never had the intention to become a teacher, a meditation teacher, a spiritual teacher, but it was a natural connection. In fact, I sit here today because I actually tried to even ignore that for a while, but honestly, we all have a soul's purpose. We're all here for a reason. It's clear to me that that's the reason. And part of why it's clear is it becomes effortless to share this wisdom with people. And I've been told that I can do it in sort of modern language, mm-hmm. these ancient teachings. Mm-hmm. And so, that's where we're at now.
So the word, I wrote this word down for you, transformational, or being able to be transformational, and then I kind of juxtapose that in the old adage that people don't really change. So I'd like to hear your philosophy or your opinion on that. Do people have the ability to, in the court, change? I'm suspect of change. True court change.
Both things can be true. I mean, transformation is real.
Okay.
I mean, we were just talking about nature before. Look at nature. The seasons, everything transforms. Mm-hmm. We transform. We don't look like we did when we were younger. We're not going to look like this, 20 years from now or 30 years from now if we're still here. So everything changes. And so it's to live in denial, not to see the basic reason and science in that. However, our egos are stubborn, and they naturally resist change. And what happens is, and this is what's exciting, Kevin, about sort of where my spiritual practice is coming now, is there's actually neuroscience involved. And the ability to actually rewire our brain is because of the presence of something called neuroplasticity, mm-hmm. which is the ability to actually mm-hmm. change thought patterns and rewire the brain, electronic impulses, and so forth. And this is very important because now, if we don't become aware of this, we're creatures of habit.
I'm just going to go along doing the same thing.
Even if something is not beneficial for us, it's familiar, and so we're kind of stuck in it. It's the old expression, "well-worn ways," right? So we're just used to. 2,600 years ago, Buddha it told us, a very important truth, and that we're all essentially sort of sleepwalking in ignorance, meaning we think we're the center of the universe, and everything we judge.
We as a people, or
as a people,
or one-mindedness, or both, maybe both.
As a human being.
Okay.
And because we're such creatures of habit, we do what becomes habitual and conditioned. We become conditioned. And so it kind of creates these well-worn ways that make us a little more resistant to change. But the very name of Buddha means awakened one.
Okay.
And not to get into all the Buddhist teachings, but awakened one simply means awaken to the truth, right? Everything is change unless we don't believe it is, and we resist it. And we tend to live in resistance, and say things like, why is this happening? I can't believe this happened. We have something and then we lose something and we're surprised. And so when we start to understand and make space that change is inevitable, and because of change, we can grow, we can evolve, we can expand.
And you wouldn't grow or change if you wouldn't grow if you didn't have change.
If transformation wasn't possible, we'd be stuck. And if our mind doesn't change, then we remain stuck. But that's a personal choice. It's defying the fact that we're all transforming, have the ability to, if we recognize it or not. But we can use this to our benefit. We can remove all tired ways of thinking. We can start to create higher, elevated emotions that are much more beneficial. Someone who identifies as an angry person, I'm an angry person, I'm a judgmental person, they keep reinforcing that. That's not the truth, but it's their truth. And so they're stuck, right? So there's a whole, there's the self that we identify with, which is kind of a composition of our outer conditions, our experiences, the things we have accumulated, our relationships, what we look like, what we drive, where we live. And then there's the true self, which is the spiritual self, which is formless. That's our soul, our spirit.
And nothing to do with these outside.
The divine within us. And so spirituality at its core is about drawing your awareness closer to that truth, to use your term, the awareness. And then begin to transform, to experience the things that you would enjoy and appreciate it more, and shine your light brighter.
That's probably just a lot of getting out of the way of yourself too, right? So there's so
Completely.
much. Yeah, I'm thinking about myself here a little bit, and we'll get to that in a second. I want to go back to your term neural, right? Is this set in NLP, neuralistic programming? Is that what we're speaking about when we're talking about making new synapses in the brain? Much the same you would do when you exercise. You keep exercising the right muscle, you're going to build that back differently.
The first thing I'll say is I am not an expert on this area. One of the leading experts on this in our time is Dr. Joe Dispenza. And he's on YouTube all over and others, and you can get into the neuroscience of it. But the short answer is yes.
Okay.
And in the same way, thoughts are energy. Feelings have a magnetic quality. But you mentioned about working out. Our thoughts and our feelings generate different chemicals in our physical body. So yes, we can talk about spiritual and meditation, but connected to that is understanding that when we maintain higher elevated emotions, such as gratitude, appreciation, humility, thanks, kindness, we are literally generating dopamine, for example, and cortisol is the negative. That's coming from low energy. So regret, anger, judgment, guilt, jealousy, these are low vibration feelings and emotions, and everything is energy. That's a whole nother topic. And these lower vibration energies actually induce chemicals such as the cortisol that I mentioned earlier, and then the higher emotions and thoughts, gratitude, for example, create the chemical that skipped my mind before, is serotonin.
Yes.
And dopamine, which is from exercise, or sometimes they'll call it the runner's high. So we literally can affect the chemistry of our body. And I like to use this term, the molecules lead us to the miracles. And
Never heard that.
Yeah. And so I think I kind of coined that, but
I like it.
Unofficially. And so if we're someone like, oh, nothing changes, nothing good happens to me, we're just reinforcing that reality.
I find that too. Don't you find that people that are caught in the negative stay in the negative?
You know what?
It's amazing.
In fairness to everyone, it's the nature of an ordinary mind.
To be negative.
It's how we're conditioned. If we don't work on it, it's like a garden. If you do nothing, the weeds are going to grow. Mm-hmm. A beautiful garden comes from care, attention, nurturing, fertilizing, loving, and good things bloom from that.
Gives back. Mm-hmm.
And so this is why it's an active practice. We're in control, which is the good news. There's some people. The same people that complain that, oh, you can't change things, the same people that kind of bark, nothing ever changes. Well, your outer reality is a reflection of your inner reality. Wayne Dyer talks about what the world you see is basically your consciousness pushed out. It's the out picture of your inner conditions. And so, and there's another expression which speaks to this, and that is, without your perception, there is no reality. That's one to wrap your mind around.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Right? So
that's what I used to think about when I was a kid. I mentioned that in one of my past shows. I used to, as a kid, sit around and say that and try to go through that. And it's endless. You really can't get through it.
Well, but you're onto the truth, because the prism or the lens that we see the world is created by our thoughts and feelings.
And consciousness.
Right? And we define what things are based on how they're viewed. So in a simple example, if we just had something unfortunate happen to us and we're kind of down in the dumps and how's it going? Everything's terrible, it's bad. Oh, why don't you come? We'll go. No, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. Oh, look at this person, look at that. You're just looking at everything through a negative lens. It's just human nature.
Let me ask you a question. Because the first day I met you, I don't know if you remember this, was on the deck at the on the shore there. Lombardi's.
Yeah, I remember.
It was the first exact, and it was a glorious day. It was sunshine, and we had a great conversation, and it was a positive meeting. My question to you is this. You, as a person, if someone asks you how you're doing, do you try to just, because you have to be, I don't want to use the word fake, because that's not where I'm going. I'm saying, do you start off by saying, I'm having a shitty week, or do you just start off positive and then maybe trickle in something that might be happening negative?
Yeah,
I'm asking you for a reason, because I've gone both ways, actually. And when I've been really in a bad place and I go, I'm doing fantastic, they look at me like I'm nuts. They go,
well, you want to be.
How are you doing fantastic?
I think the first thing is you want to be honest and you want to be sincere. And also, realistically, it depends who's asking. Right? If it's someone you haven't seen in a long time, and you bump into them at the
you
deli,
don't lay that on
like
them.
How's it going? It's good, or what's new maybe. But you don't want to fake it. If things, plus again, it comes back. Everything is energy,
right?
So you can tell someone from a distance how things are going really with them, independent of what they say. Because their energy, as we spoke a little bit before about, is it's either elevated energy that they're emitting from a distance. That's another beautiful conversation. We're all transmitters. So the energy that we are experiencing by our own thoughts, emotions, and feelings are putting out frequency. Good energies, high frequency. Low energy, low frequency. So in truth, someone who has a little bit of awareness can know how someone is without even asking them.
Without even asking.
But then to your question, if things, we'll say fine or good, which we know is not good news when someone says it's fine. And then if it's a closer friend or someone you feel more comfortable, hey, tell them the truth.
Right.
But be true to yourself first.
Right. So anyway, when I met you, you definitely exuded some positive, even before I knew what you do. So, Kate, to your point, right, that you kind of feel people's energy first. I didn't know what you did. And then we've been involved in a few things with designs, and it's been great. So just to get that part squared away, that energy was immediate, and it was positive. That's a good thing. So let's talk about something that it's not a great subject, but if people are looking to make an immediate feeling change in their being, we all know that they'll go to alcohol or drugs, right? That's a possibility of trying to get out of what you were talking about, which was that life, that everyday conundrum of life, whatever that may be. What's been your experience with that? I'm not trying to bring out that you're a drug counselor or anything like that. My point is there's a few ways to get to a place. It seems the one you're speaking about is a long-term positive life change. The other one probably is short-term, right?
Well, the other things you mentioned, those you'll never get out of what's the cause of a problem by escaping it. And unfortunately, we live in a society where there's a lot of ways to escape. Even someone who's not, necessarily having some kind of addiction issues, a lot of people just like to get out and sort of escape the normal. Go out to dinner, go out to a bar, happy hour, get out on a boat and do all sorts of things. In some cases, maybe it's a little more formal. But we have to understand nothing can change because everything's coming from within. So there's nothing on the outside it can cover it up. It can distract us. It can give us a temporary release from suffering. But what we really want is permanent peace, permanent happiness. And get this, which we already have. It's here. It's not in between the ears. This is our spiritual nature. Our nature is inner peace. And I'm teaching now almost 20 years, and people always say, oh, he doesn't know, this guy doesn't know me. And I said, well, no, I'm not talking about what's going on in between the ears. There's no peace really to be had between the ears. That's why we never meditate in our head or in between the ears. We meditate at our spiritual heart, where the peace is already found. It's like, we're not far from Port Jeff Harbor or the Long Island Sound. It's like trying to kind of look for calm waters on a busy weekend with speedboats and the ferry and jet skis at the surface. It's not going to be calm there because of all what's happening. But if we dive down, it's perfectly calm.
No matter what's happening
and peaceful
on the surface.
And calm, yes, independent of what's at the surface. So that's the very essence of meditation, is to drop down. It's not trying to make all the crazy thoughts, or just maybe not even crazy, just the normal thoughts go away. It's about uncoupling your attention from those thoughts.
So you actually
dropping into the peace.
Yeah, you very well answered my question, which is, again, just to go back to a substance, that a substance would temporarily take that away from the head. What I'm trying to do is just justify why so many people use substances. And it's because they immediately take that which is going on in their head and ease it, right? We know that.
Well,
that's true.
This is a profound subject here, because what you said is true. They're trying to ease the pain and suffering in their head. And again, that's not my area of expertise, and a lot of wonderful people are doing a lot of wonderful things with counseling and so forth. But the cause is what Buddha called delusions, which we all have. And these are distorted ways of looking at life and our own situation, distorted views, starting with, I am the center of the universe, and my happiness is more important than anyone else's. That's already trouble right at the gate, because no one else thinks you're the center of the universe. Why? Because they think they're the center of the universe. So everything is...
I beg to differ. My grandmother really thought I was the center of the universe. And
to your grandmother, that you probably were. But for ourselves, if we have to understand that we're part of a vast universe, interconnected. But more specifically to your question, we want to get to the cause of the suffering, which essentially is feeding negative thoughts,
right,
negative states of minds and feelings, such as jealousy, or impatience, right? And looking at someone and thinking this is an angry person, rather than they have anger in their mind, right? And so we're seeing from this prism of an egoic mind, and the more we do that and stir these negative feelings coming from those distorted views, the more we literally can drive ourselves crazy. So then we seek some kind of a refuge. But and even people that are like just going on cruises and things like that, which is fine. But these are all worldly pleasures. Worldly pleasures begin and they end. And we also know there can be a lot of problems along with them, right? But they're temporary. And nothing wrong with worldly pleasures, but they cannot be the lasting source of peace and happiness or the source of healing suffering.
Yeah.
But we have the ability. That's why Buddha's teachings are so powerful.
So that's interesting, because if you have enough money and you're well off, you can continue these 1 week. I'll call them they're worldly pleasures, but let's also call them they're deflections, if you will, right?
Yes.
What's the word I'm looking for?
Distractions.
Distractions is the word I'm looking for. Thank you. So if you got enough money, you can go through life, and it does end. You hear it all the time where it does end.
You mentioned.
People with money can be very unhappy.
Well, we don't have to look far to just look at, for example, in this country, celebrities are, we all look up to as gods, and there's a long list of celebrities that had it all.
Yeah.
The fame, the money, the physical trappings of quote unquote success, and a lot of them took their own lives.
Yeah.
That's how much pain can be stirred. So none of those outside things can cure an inner problem. But awareness, meditation, mindfulness can. And then and not at the exclusion of those outer worldly pleasures. I like to say that, the worldly pleasures, the great night out, the dinner, sex, whatever you want to say, is wonderful. But that's the icing on the cake. Your soul, your inner peace, that's the cake. And if you don't have the cake, the icing is just a lot of sticky stuff on the table and the counter. So we need to take care of the cake. An example, just and then we can move on. Is,
no, it's such a great point.
I think we're
at a great point.
We look at nature, right? And we talked about landscape and trees. You could look at oak trees, and from the outside, or other trees, they look healthy and everything looks good on the outside. But then a storm comes, and you might remember we had that microburst 6-7 years ago, here in the North Shore, and a lot of trees that looked healthy from the outside were destroyed. And what we saw was they were rotten in the core. The inner core was not solid or healthy, and so when the storms came, they snapped. And there were other trees that may not have looked as healthy from the outside, and they withstood the storm because they had the inner strength, the inner core. And so, what we pay attention to grows. So if we're paying attention to our inner core with gratitude, inner peace, and really understanding that we are, we're here as miraculous beings, for a reason, for a purpose, and we start to feed that with gratitude, appreciation, thanks. We are strengthening our core, taking care of the cake, so to speak, and then add the icing on the cake on top of it, but we're solid and peaceful. And our society does not teach us this because not a whole lot of money in that.
Yeah.
They want us reaching for all the entertainments and subscriptions to this and that, and buying the cars and buying the bigger houses and spending the money. That's a consumption-based, consumer-based society. But that's why the world's in the shape that it is. And so platforms like this and all spiritual platforms, and when you start to look at the truth, understand we can reclaim our power and our freedom by looking within, paying attention with gratitude, because we are transmitters, elevating our thoughts and emotions in more positive, peaceful ways, so the transmitter is putting out good frequency, and we can actually put that vibration out in the universe because it's so badly needed.
So essentially, you feel you exist, besides the wonderful professional services that you do and family person and what you put across, you feel you exist to make people aware of what they already have. And in doing that, you do it through, talking to people through a show like this, but also you have some of your own things set up where you actually see people in groups, in settings, where you teach. And then, so what's the goal? Is the goal to get them on a aware journey. They might have come in and go, what the heck are you talking about? And then 20 whatever weeks later or whatever it is, right? That's the goal, right? To get them onto this path where they're self-aware.
Honestly, you have to remember, because we all forget, we are already enlightened beings.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing that anyone can teach you that at the depths of your heart and soul you don't already know.
Have. Wow.
We've just forgotten.
It's like a shade on it.
We've forgotten. Yeah. Shade. It's in a closed vault.
Yeah.
Blanket, whatever metaphor we want to use, but we forgot. And we don't even look anymore because we're in a society that everything is outward. We're looking outward for stimulation, for entertainment, for relationship, for job, for money, for and so on and so forth. And so what I can't say this was on my bucket list, but and whether it was the seeds were sown, as we talked earlier, many, many moons ago, and then I couldn't not pay attention to it, even though I tried. And I know with all my energy and attention and teaching, it really needs to be a practice.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I feel my calling has become, and again, I tried to ignore it, but people are drowning. People are suffering. And again, as you said before, they're going to tell you they're fine and they're okay, but we know because we're going through the same thing. We're going through the same conditions of an ordinary mind and old, well-worn thoughts and tired ways of feeling. It's kind of all we know. And we believe we have this ordinary mind. Some people walk around, nothing good happens to me, and so on and so forth. And I'm called to let people know a simple message. While you think, and we all think we're ordinary, it's not the truth. We are extraordinary. And the more we can start to remember that
mm-hmm.
and experience that, then life just gets sweeter. Better, sweeter. Our light shines brighter. We're not complaining. We're not judging. And from a compassion standpoint, until you hear teachings and things of this nature, you're just lost in the sauce, with some highs and lows, and that's the pattern. But because we already know this deep down, I've had people in classes or one-on-one. It could be 2 classes
mm-hmm.
or 1 meditation,
mm-hmm.
a simple breathing meditation just to get out of your head and brought back into your spiritual heart. This doesn't have to be, no results for 20 years or something. You're already a divine person. You're already a meditation master. But, it just have to remember that. And then through guided meditations that I've been doing, teaching,
mm-hmm.
doing small groups, one-on-one, the graphic behind you is a brand new website, zenlikemike.com.
I love that.
Actually, my daughter gave me that name years ago.
He's Zen Like Mike.
Zen Like Mike. And more importantly, it's a platform where you can have access to many, many videos, teachings, meditations. In fact, we have a group. It's called Serenity Sundays
mm-hmm.
That you can go to the website and sign up for. You'll actually receive a meditation every single Sunday, a new meditation, so throughout the month. As remember, you'll get other benefits of that as well. And of course, these meditations, they come out every Sunday, but you can listen to them as often as you like in the comfort of your own home, which is nice because it's always accessible that way. That's the YouTube channel, which you can get to through the website. You can also just look it up under Michael Opisso. There's an Instagram account you can get to, Zen Like Mike. But the website I'm excited about because it's very, a lot of content there.
Right. It's all encompassing.
It's all encompassing, and people can kind of dip in as much as they want. And I just, it was told to me in classes years ago, like, many of us are sick, but we just don't realize
mm-hmm.
it. And meditations and teachings is like saying, here's the medicine.
Well, I'll say this, for all of my adult life and certainly high school, college, I never even heard the word meditation. Sadly, honestly.
There's a reason for that, Kev.
Either I wasn't being aware, or I was not wanting to look that way. I don't know.
Well, when you and I went to school, which is a while ago now,
Yep.
Meditation was kind of like, still looked at as some kind of a cult or someone anti-society, going back to the 60s.
Maybe, yeah.
But it was the best kept secret because some of the most successful by societal standards, such as folks like Howard Stern, Jerry Seinfeld.
They've been meditating since day one,
Steve Jobs. The meditation was the secret to their success, but because of corporate influence and so forth, they didn't want to put that out there back then because society didn't realize the true value. It still seemed kind of on the side. But we've come a long way with that, and now we realize there's no hocus pocus here. Meditation is mindfulness, and it's also driven by wisdom and getting to the true reality of our true self. And meditation is getting quiet and kind of getting back to the simple, like we talked earlier about getting back in the dirt, the soil, the fertile soil. Mm-hmm. That's what meditation, the soil of our soul.
So walk me through this. If you're going into a meditation session that you've committed to, whether it be every day, I don't know if you recommend every day in the morning or night, we can talk about that. But when you get to that and then your mind does what it does best, which is, I don't know, I got to go grocery shopping, I can't pay this bill this month, whatever your mind will go to, inevitably. I never understood what was the technique to push that away, or do you not? Do you try to let it dissipate, or do you just reconcentrate on the breathing?
Yeah, no, so you said it well. The question is asked with a lot of knowledge there. So we have to clarify our intention and really go into it with logic and common sense, okay? The nature of an ordinary mind is to just generate thoughts. What about this? What about this? That? What about that, right? That doesn't change, okay?
That seems like it's punishment.
Well, and we're prisoners of our own mind. We don't live our life, we live our mind. This is what we have the ability to change and transform that. So you want to set like a wise intention. In the same way, you wouldn't go into a gym and try to lift the entire rack of weights. You'd start with what you can handle.
Gotcha.
And even if that was a little bit of a challenge, you're not going to tear up your membership. You understand it's a practice. Same thing with someone who wants to decide to run a marathon. They don't open the door, throw on some new sneakers, and try to run 26 miles. You work up to it, and with clarity and wisdom. Okay, this is a practice. But if the intention is clear, and you're committed to it, you'll work with it. And most people, if not all people, when you start a meditation practice, if you think your mind is busy when you're not meditating, where do you start meditating? And you really see all the thoughts that are going on. And
maybe that's part of the deal.
It's part of the deal. Just like it's like going to the gym. Don't expect the weight not to be heavy. It's going to be heavy, but that's what's going to make you grow and get fit. So you're going to see all the thoughts and say, oh my goodness. But you hang in there. They're just thoughts. They have no power over you unless you give them the power. Mm-hmm. So many times people just laugh during meditation because, oh my goodness, what a mess my mind is. And so you laugh at it because now you're actually watching your mind as opposed to being controlled by your mind. And that's what's so helpful with meditation is you're putting space between those thoughts. So now you can watch them without being victimized by them or influenced by them. And just watching your thoughts. And it's not even about controlling your thoughts, but it's about not letting your thoughts control you. Mm-hmm. So be the witness, be the observer.
That's valuable.
And the more, it's like anything else, the more that you practice that with patience for yourself, the better you're going to get at it.
Yeah.
Because again, you're unraveling the accumulated thoughts that have separated you from being that meditation master all along, and you're getting back to your pure spirit.
Beautiful. Just back to the website for a second. In terms of somebody that wanted to be introduced to meditation, is there content? I guess there's video content, but do you also have written content for somebody? Even, hey, what is meditation? What should it be? That kind of a thing. Is it on here or is it in video format?
there's a little bit just by looking at the website, kind of has my story and my background, but does talk about the benefits of meditation. And you can click on through, and then even my YouTube channel, which you can get through directly, Michael Opisso.
Yeah, you can
on
subscribe
YouTube,
to it. Yep.
Subscribe to it. Or you can access it through the website. Many, many teachings that talk about the value of meditation, its techniques. And then if someone wants to sign up for this Serenity Sundays, not just the meditation, but there's a teaching leading into the meditation and a teaching shortly after. Because I've always felt like anything else, like what's in it for me? What's everybody's radio station? WIIFM. What's in it for me? And so we talk about the benefits of meditation so that we're encouraged to do it. Because if we don't see a benefit, we're not going to do it. It's just that simple.
Right.
We do things that we think are beneficial to us and have value. But this now is different than, running around just trying to entertain ourselves. This is getting back to recognizing and bringing about the highest version of ourself.
You said that right at the beginning.
And realizing our potential, the spiritual potential. And so with patience, if you can breathe, you can meditate.
You can meditate.
And before you were starting to ask how long, what time of the day, do what you can when you can. You'll hear often that first thing in the morning is advised because before the busyness of the day starts and before you start responding to emails and texts. But my answer is best time to meditate is any time that you can take 5 minutes and just quiet the noise. You could do formal meditation. You could do meditation while you're folding laundry because meditation is the act of the mind, not the body. So it's not about what you're doing, it's about what your mind is doing. And meditation is allowing yourself to acquaint yourself with your virtues, the love inside you, the kindness, the generosity, the patience, the wisdom, and getting more familiar, and above all, peace. Meditation is returning you to that natural state of peace that's in the center of your chest that you've forgot about long ago.
Michael, let me ask you, do you have an example of someone who was learning, as I am right now, about meditation, the benefits of, maybe never really experienced it or stood to have, a schedule, and a story about what that might have turned into?
As a matter of fact, there's several people that come to mind, but in light of your question, there's one really wonderful example. And what's interesting is this was someone who used to come to my meditation classes every week on a Tuesday evening. But that did start with the seed of enlightenment that we all have within us. It started to ripen. That's what kind of gets you to a meditation center. And hopefully a platform like this is also helping to germinate that seed for others that are listening. But it's a wonderful fellow, and he came, and he's sort of not questioning necessarily, but interested. And he started out on a Tuesday night. Kevin, for 2 years, he didn't miss a Tuesday night, and to the point where you mentioned about transformation and changed, he shapeshifted his life, and now is one of the principal owners of the Holistic Center for Soulful Living in Smithtown, not far from where we are right now, which I've actually do many live events. I've done multiple events, a couple of months since the last eight months, often appear there. But this is someone who came to a meditation class with the idea that there's got to be more than just kind of going out to dinner and going on vacations and cashing my paycheck and so on and so forth. And now, as I said, he has 2 partners, and they have a wonderful holistic center, and that's in Smithtown.
That's a great story.
So that's like a shining example. And it's funny because, not funny, but sort of fitting, that whenever I do an event there and he introduces me, he kind of tells the story that, I was his first meditation teacher, and that's how the center got started. I'm not taking credit for it. It was just that's the story that took place.
Well, you
I influenced it, perhaps.
You influenced it, yeah.
And I also want to say that I don't know any more than the next person, but I've you mentioned a term before about I'm trying to get out of my own way. And that's what it all is. You have to make space to evolve, to grow, to change. I tell people, you can't go out and get a whole nother wardrobe and then stick it into the closet of old clothes. Like, you got to get rid of the old clothes, or at least most of it, to make room for the new. And even loss and letting go, this is actually the precursor to becoming.
I think you're so right that there's this little thing kneading at you that wants it to come out. I think you're right. But I'll tell you one thing I'm doing for the new year. It's very interesting. So back to exercising, that's great. But now I'm into these lists, and somehow I'm categorizing my life through lists. Good. And I'm checking out the list. And that it's good. It's keeping me on track, especially for somebody that could be a little bit, I'm not always straight and narrow, which is good. It makes for an interesting life. But my point is this. Before I get to the list in the morning, I probably should meditate, because all I'm doing is I'm going from waking up to my list. And then, what happens when you do the list? You got to perform the list. And then you go to bed and you wake. As you said before, there's got to be something more to it, whether, you're a billionaire or you're a guy with a lot of lists. There's got to be something more.
Well, I can tell you it's not your spiritual self that's creating that list. It's the self
that's
that
right.
the ordinary self that we normally relate to.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with lists, but if anyone who's listening yourself, start the day before you get out of bed. Just take a beat, take a few breaths. Generate some gratitude for even waking up.
So this is the reason why we're together. This is funny, because I was looking at the list, and as I told you, I categorize it in terms of what I do, professionally or otherwise. The last thing I put on the list was personal, which I really, what am I doing for personals? So there's a few things on there, but there's no reason why this couldn't sit. So I'll actually do this if I put it on the list. That's where I'm going. How great is that?
I would take the list and flip it upside down
invert it.
And start with the personal, not the personal ego, I that, but self-care is well-care.
Or knowledge or working or education.
Because everything else after that is going to be accomplished better. And we didn't use this word earlier, but meditation allows us to identify with clarity, like a cloudless sky. And what happens in clarity?
Better decisions.
Miracles, wisdom, all the inventions that we enjoy today, they came out of a thought of someone's mind, maybe just daydreaming. And this is so important because we need to let go, make the space for divine things to happen, for intelligence. So if we strain, whatever it is, we're constricting the thought process, and we're constricting the flow of opportunities. And so when we let go, we open to it. And then great ideas, great inventions, great wisdom, not to mention peace of mind. There's a famous expression, it's the silence between the notes that makes the music.
True.
And so it's a silence between our thoughts that create a high-quality experience of life.
Yeah, that's so valuable, Michael. Thank you so much for joining us. This was a really great, fantastic session. Those interested, and I think everybody watching this would be interested. I certainly am going to be exploring this, just learning of this website today. Zen Like Mike, good name. Love it. Visit zenlikemike.com. Follow Mike, learn about Mike, and certainly email us if you have any questions. Thanks for having.
My pleasure. More importantly, learn about yourself. You are extraordinary. Reclaim your power, and just one breath at a time. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for listening.